Hi, today we're looking at AQA Functional Skills Maths Level 2. We've got the January 2020 paper and we're going to start with the non-calculator section. Question 1. Here are 9 numbers. We've got them all written out for us. Work out the median. Well, the median is the middle number. The best way to do that is to have the numbers sorted from smallest to largest. And in fact, they've already done that for us. So if we want the middle number, we can just cross off the first and last, next and the next from the end, and just keep crossing them off in pairs until we end up with either 1 or 2 in the middle. Now, because we've got 9, we've got an odd number of numbers, so we should end up with just 1 in the middle. That's the median there. So we can circle it. Question 2. Put the following numbers in order, starting with the smallest. Okay, well, the negative ones are going to be smaller than the positive ones. And the more negative it is, the smaller it's going to be. So minus 9 is the most negative. Then we've got minus 6. Then we've got minus 2. Now, the whole numbers, we just put from smallest to largest. So we've got 1, then 5, and finally 7. Question 3. Circle the value of 4y squared when y equals minus 3. Okay, so this 4y squared, well, when you've got a number next to a letter, it means times. So this means 4 times y squared. Well, y squared actually means y times y. Well, we've got minus 3 for y, so this is minus 3 times minus 3. Well, if we just look at the numbers to start with, 3 times 3 we know is 9. Now, if we just had one minus sign, then it would become minus 9. But because we've got a minus 3 and another minus 3, so 2 minuses multiplied together, the answer is positive. So we could put plus to show it's positive, but we don't need to. It's just 9. So we've got 4 here times, because it's next to the letter, and for y squared, we can now put the 9. So this is just knowing your 4 or your 9 times table. So if we do our 9s, we've got 9, 18, 27, 36, which is this one here. Question 4. Work out the size of angle X. So we've got this angle is 85 degrees, this angle is 42 degrees, and this is X down here. Now, what we need to know is that the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So if we know 2 of them, we can take that away from 180 degrees and see what's left. We could take one away at a time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add them together first and then take them off in one go. So 5 plus 2 is 7, 8 plus 4 is 12. So that's these in total. So now we can take that answer, 127, away from the 180. 0 minus 7, well, we can't take 7 away from nothing. So we reduce the 8 to a 7 and give 1 over here to make it 10 minus 7. So 10 minus 7 is 3. 7 minus 2 is 5. 1 minus 1 is nothing. So our answer there is just 53 degrees. Okay, and now we've got question 5. Work out 61 minus 4 times 2 cubed. Right, so we've got to use our BIDMAS rules or order of operations. Now, whenever we've got this sort of thing, so either a squared or a cube, this is our order of, or indices. So with BIDMAS or BODMAS, brackets are always done first, and then we haven't got any brackets here. Then the next thing is indices or order of operations. So we need to work out the 2 cubed first. Well, 2 cubed, the cubed bit means you're multiplying something together 3 times. So it's 2 times 2 times 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. So we can write this as 61 minus 4, and now instead of 2 cubed, we can put the 8 in. Now, we've still got a subtraction and a multiply. Well, again, in BIDMAS or BODMAS, however you want to remember it, the M multiplication comes before the S for subtraction, so we need to do this bit. Well, 4 times 8, you've got 8, 16, 24, 32. So that means we've got 61 minus 32. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write that as a column. Well, 1 minus 2, I can't take 2 away from 1 because 2 is bigger than 1. So reduce that to 5, plus the 1 that we've reduced it by over here to make it 11 minus 2 to give us 9. 5 minus 3 is 2. So we've got 29. Okay, question 6. Fitness. Laura has a company with 16 employees. Each employee has a device that records how many steps they each take and their resting heart rate. And we've got here for 6a, the scatter diagram represents the data for 13 of the employees. So let's have a closer look at this. Right, so we've got the average number of steps per day in thousands going along here, and the average resting heart rate, which is in beats per minute. So, for example, if we pick, let's go with this point here. What this is saying is that there was someone who did an average of 7,000 steps a day, and their resting heart rate was 80. Okay. Right, now let's have a look at the actual question for this. And it tells us, the table shows the extra data for the other 3 employees. So we've got, there was someone with an average number of steps of 3,600, and their average resting heart rate is 96 beats per minute. And we've got 2 other observations here. Laura takes an average of 4,000 steps per day. Use the scatter diagram with the extra data to estimate Laura's average resting heart rate. Give the units of your answer. You must show your working, which should be on the diagram. So the fact that we need to work something out using or with the extra data means we're going to need to put these 3 observations on the scatter diagram. Okay, so let's put this back on here. So that first observation that we had was 3,600 steps and a resting heart rate of 96. So 3,600, we want it in thousands. So 3,600 is going to be 3.6 thousand. Okay, in fact, let's do that here. We've got 3,600. It's going to 3.6 thousands. Okay, so we're going to find 3. Here's 4. Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares in here. So each 0.1 can't be 1 square. In fact, if we work it out, if we've got 5, that means that each of these must be worth 0.2. Okay, if that makes sense. So in other words, if you think all the way from here to here would be 1,000, we had 3,600, so we want 600 out of 1,000. So this must be 200, 400, 600. So we've got to go up from 3,600 until we reach a resting heart rate of 96. So here's 90, and if we look at the scale, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 96. So we've got a value up there. Okay, the next observation we had was 3,400. So again, it's going to be 3,200, 3,400, and the heart rate was 100. So that's a nice one. We can go all the way up to 100 there. You might want to use your ruler to help to keep you in line so that you make sure that you're following the right line all the way up. And then you can check that you're going across to where you need it to. And then finally, we've got a value of 3,100. Well, we worked out that each of these is worth 200. So 3,100 must be like right in the middle of that first square. And a heart rate of 99. So we'll follow that all the way up. 99. So it's going to be there. Okay. Now, they asked us to use the scatter diagram with the extra data to estimate Laura's average resting heart rate. Now, we know that on average, she takes 4,000 steps per day. So before we actually use that, what we've got to do is we've got these values, which are great, but we're going to draw our line of best fit. So what we need to do, because at the moment, this is helpful, but we need something that we can refer to. So we're going to draw a nice straight line which follows the pattern of this data and goes roughly between the points. So you can see we've got some below, some above, but it's following the overall sort of pattern here, or the overall trend. So we wanted, she's going to be doing 4,000 steps on average, so I'm going to find 4,000 here and draw a line up until it meets my line of best fit. And then we're going to read across. And we've got 90, so 91, 92, 93, 94, 95. So that's 96. Okay, and that's going to be her average resting heart rate in beats per minute. Okay, so in fact, let's go to the answer sheet here. And we can just put 96 beats per minute. Right. Now we've got 6B. In total, the 16 employees had 70 days of sick leave last year. Each day of sick leave cost the company £130. Laura thinks that increasing the well-being of the employees may reduce the number of days of sick leave. She pays for gym membership for the 16 employees. The cost for each employee is £15 per month. Laura says, if the number of days of sick leave is reduced by 40%, we will save over £750 per year after paying for the gym membership. Is she correct? Right, so a few things to work out here. This is 7 marks as well. So what we've got to do is we've got to work out how much money they're losing to start with, okay? And we can do this by looking at the £130 and the number of employees that are off sick. Then we've got to look at, well, how much would the gym membership cost? And then what's going to be the difference between those and compare it to 40%. Okay, to whether, well, then that'll help to tell us whether the 40% reduction is going to save us £750 per year. So let's start off with the cost. So what we're saying is we've got 70 sick days. They're going to cost £130. Well, actually, what they're saying is if the number of sick days is reduced by 40%. Okay, yeah, let's do that first. So we're going to say we want 70 times 130. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore the zeros for now. And I'm going to do 7 times 13. So 7 times 3, or 3 times 7, 7, 14, 21. So 1 carry the 2. And 1 times 7 is 7, plus 2 is 9. Now, we had a 0 here and a 0 here, so I can just add those 2 zeros on the end. Okay, so we've got £9,100, and that is the sick leave cost. Okay, now we're talking about reducing it by 40%. So what we're going to do is we're going to work out what 40% of this is so we can then compare it to the £750, which we're also going to work out afterwards. So in other words, we want 40% of 9,100. Okay, well, I know that 10% of 9,100, for 10%, we just take a 0 off the end. So it's just going to be £910. Okay, so if we want 40%, well, 40% is 4 lots of 10%. So what we need to do is do 910 times 4. So 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 1, or 1 times 4 is 4. And 4 times 9, 9, 18, 27, 36. Okay, so we've got 40%, that is going to be £3,640, okay? That's what we're trying to compare it to. Yeah, so now we need to look at the actual cost of the gym membership. Okay, so we've got £15 per month for 16 employees. Right, so with this, you don't have to do it using the column method, but we're going to do it this way. We could also do it using the grid method. That would be fine as well. So what we're going to look at is, well, 6 times 5, or 5 times 6. So let's do 5 6s at 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. 0 carry the 3. 1 times 6 is 6, plus a 3 is 9. Move on to the 10, so we can put a 0 here. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. We want to add these together. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 9 plus 5 is 14. 4 carry the 1. And 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay, so we've got £240. This is gym membership for 16 employees, and that's per month. We're looking at a whole year, so what we need to do is 240 times 12. Okay. Well, again, I'm going to ignore the 0 to start with, so I'm going to do 24 times 12. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. Onto the 10, so we put a 0 down here. So 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. And we need to add this all together. 8 plus 0 is 8. 4 plus 4 is 8. Nothing plus 2 is 2. Remember, we had 240, so we had an extra 0, so we've got to put our extra 0 on the end there. So we've got 2,880. So this is gym membership for 16 employees, and this is per year. Okay, right, so we've got that cost. We've got how much 40% of the sick leave is, and Laura here was, she was saying that they'd save over £750. So, well, let's find out. So if we've got 3,640 is the cost. Well, that's 40% of the, what was that, 40% of the sick leave cost. We're going to subtract the cost of the gym membership. Now, if we can find out what that difference is, we can compare that directly to the £750. So 0 minus 0 is 0. 4 minus 8 we can't do, so reduce that to 5. Put a 1 there to make that 14 minus 8, which is 6. 5 minus 8, again can't do because 8 is bigger than 5, so reduce that to a 2. We've now got 15 minus 8, which is 7. 2 minus 2 is 0. Right, so what we are saying here, and this is where you've got to be careful which way round you're looking at it, is we're saying that the saving would actually be £760. And £760 is more than £750. So we can say, is she correct? Yes. She's correct. So just to summarise, we started off by looking at what the total sick leave cost was. We then worked out what 40% of it was by working out 10% first of all, and then multiplying that by 4. So this was the total 40% of the sick leave cost. In fact, let's label that 40% of sick leave cost. And then because Laura's statement was if the number of days of sick leave is reduced by 40%, we'll save over £750. So we then said, well, how much is the gym membership? Worked that out for the full year. Took the difference between the sick leave cost and the gym membership and worked out that it was slightly more than the £750 saved, which she mentioned in her quote. You could do this a number of different ways. One way you might want to do it that could possibly simplify this is instead of working out this total and then reducing it, what you could do is actually reduce the number of days. Because as I said, if the number of days of sick leave is reduced by 40%, so actually we could take the 70, reduce that by 40%, and then you might be dealing with slightly smaller numbers. Either way is fine. I would say the place where it's possible to make a few mistakes here are probably on these multiplications, 2 digits by 2 digits. But just remember, if you've got zeros, ignore the zeros, put them in afterwards. Otherwise, it would get really complicated. And that's the end of the non-calculator section. Okay. So now we're moving on to the calculator section of the paper. Question 1. The diagram shows a 3D shape. Yeah, so here it is. Which is the plan view of the shape? Circle the correct letter. Right, well, we've got some options down here, but I'm not going to show you the options because what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and draw the plan view and then we can compare it to what we've got. So the plan view is looking straight down, almost like a bird's eye view. So if we look down at this, well, we'd see this row here. We'd see 1, 2, 3 blocks. So we'd see something like that, 3 blocks in a row. Then we'd see that there's 2 blocks sticking out from it. So here and here. We wouldn't know how high everything is because we're just looking straight down. So we've got a very rough sketch here. So let's see, does that match any of our drawings here? Well, actually, I'll do it again for us down here so that when I move the page down, it's not completely off the shot. Okay, so now here you go, we can have a look. Does this look like any of these pictures? Well, it doesn't look like this, like this. It does look quite a bit like that if we just rotate it slightly. There you go. So we go with C. Okay. Alternatively, you can do it using a method of elimination or process of elimination. So we can say, well, on picture A here, we've got 3 across and 3 up. Well, there's no way that we'd be able to see. We might see 3 in one direction, but not 3 in another direction. So we'd know it's not A. B, we've got just 1 sticking out from the 3, but we've clearly got 2 here that we'd be able to see as well as that. So it can't be B. And D is very similar to B. So it has to be C. Again, if you just wanted to say, forget about the shape, if I look down on it, how many squares could I see? Well, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And actually C is the only picture that's got 5 squares. Okay. Question 2. Write down the coordinates of the point marked X. Here's X. We always want the X coordinate first. So we've got 3. And then we want the Y coordinate, which is -2. So 3 -2. Okay. Question 3. Increase 1,670 by 27%. Well, what we'll do is we'll work out 27% and then add it on. So if we want 27% of it, we'll do 27 divided by 100 times 1,670. And we can use our calculators now. That gives us 450.9. And then we want to add on the original because we're increasing it by that. So add on 1,670. And we get 2,120.9, which we can put down here. Now, if you wanted to do this in one step, you could say, well, if I'm increasing it by 27%, well, that's the same as multiplying it by 127%. And if we're going to do 127 divided by 100, it's basically saying 1.27 times 1,670. Okay. And let's just confirm that this gives us the same answer, and it does. So this is, that's an alternative method. But you can see, well, I think that this is a lot quicker, but it just takes a little bit of thinking and getting your head around, well, I don't need to do the 27 and add it on, I can just do it all in one step. Question 4. The graph can be used to convert between pounds and kilograms. Use the graph to convert 40 pounds to kilograms. So we'd find our 40 pounds, draw a line across. Where it hits the graph, we then draw a line down. And that's coming out at 18 kilograms. So we can put that on the answer line. Question 5. Calculate 1 3/4 plus 2 4/5. So this is the calculator section. So we could do something clever with the fractions. We could get a common denominator, but actually we can say, well, 1 3/4 equals 1 plus 3/4. So if I do that on a calculator, well, 3/4, 3 divided by 4 is 0.75, add 1, so I've got 1.75. Now let's do the same with this one. 2 4/5 means 2 plus 4/5, or 4/5. So 4 divided by 5 is 0.8, add the 2 is 2.8. So then we just need to add the two of them together. So 2.8 plus 1.75, and we get 4.55. If you kept it in fractions, you'd end up with, what's that going to be, 4 11/20. But you'll probably see that this is a quicker way of doing it, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. Note that when I added the 1 3/4, I had to, because I'm using a simple calculator, I had to do the 3/4 first. If I did 1 3/4, it's not going to work out right. You've got to think of it almost as BIDMAS. The 3/4, this is like division, so we've got to do the division before we do the addition. Okay, question 6. Complete the table to show equivalent fractions, decimals, and percentages. Right, so to get from a percentage to a decimal, we just need to divide by 100. So 37.5 divided by 100, 0.375. Then if we want a fraction, 15% literally means 15 out of 100. Okay. If you want, you can simplify this. So you can divide top and bottom by 5 to get 3/20, but you don't need that. They didn't say in its simplest form. We can just leave it as 15 over 100. Okay, question 7. A shape is made from a rectangle and a triangle. Work out the area of the shape. Okay. So what we can do is we can split this shape up, work out the area of the rectangle, work out the area of the triangle, or you can say, well, actually, yeah, it is a rectangle in a triangle, and when you put a rectangle next to a triangle, you get a trapezium. And the way we know it's a trapezium is it's got one pair of parallel sides, and it's got 4 sides in total. So the area of a trapezium is equal to a half times A plus B times H, where A and B are the parallel sides. So it's going to be 42 plus 71. And H is the height. So it's this 37 here. Okay, so if we're going to work that out, we'll do our 42 plus 71. So it's going to be a half times 113 times 37. Okay. So you can type a half in the calculator, or you can say, well, I know a half is 0.5 times 113 times 37. And we get 2090.5, and it's centimetres, and because it's area, it's going to be centimetres squared. Okay. Question 8. A fashion blogger. Alex is a fashion blogger. Companies pay her to promote their goods. Alex writes 30 posts promoting company A. The table shows the number of views of each post. So there were five times where there were between nothing and 30,000 views. There were 9 times where there were between 30,000 and 60,000 views. 12 times where it's between 60 and 90,000 views, and 4 times where the posts received between 90,000 and 120,000 views, and we had a total of 30. Alex also writes 23 posts promoting company B. The total number of views of these posts is, and I'm going to put the commas in, tell me to read it, 1,223,600. Which company receives the higher average number of views, A or B? You must show you're working. Right, so we want to work out averages. I'm going to work out the average for company B first, and, well, for average, I'm going to work out the mean. Dave said average. If you wanted to work out a different average for the other values given, that's fine, but for B, the only thing we've got from these values, the only thing we can work out is the mean. And for the mean, we need the total and divide it by the frequency. So for company B, the total is 1,223,600, and the frequency, the number of posts, is 23. So 1,223,600 divided by 23. So our mean is 53,200 posts. Okay. Now, this is the slightly longer bit. We need to work out the mean for company A. Okay. Now, we've got grouped data here. By that, I mean we don't know exactly what the values are So we had 5 instances that the number of views were between these, but they could all have been 0. They could all have been 25,000. Chances are it was that they were somewhere in between. So what we're going to have to do is use a midpoint. So I'm going to say, because I don't know what the views were, I'm going to assume that all of them were smack bang in the middle. So in other words, for between 0 and 30, I'll do 0 plus 30,000. Oh, sorry, 0 plus 30,000. So in other words, just 30,000. Divide that by 2. So halfway is 15,000. So again, for the next range, or next band, we've got 30,000. Add that to 60,000. Divide it by 2. That'll tell me that halfway between the two is 45,000. So this is reasonable in working out an average. So again, with 60,000 and 90,000, divide it by 2, get 75,000. And then for the final one, 90,000 and 120,000, divide it by 2, and we get 105,000. Okay, so we wanted the total, so we want the total number of views. We've got the midpoints, but there were 5 times when we had this number of views. So basically what we're saying is we can ignore these values now. We're assuming that there were 5 times where there were 15,000 views, 9 times where there were 45,000 views. So the total number of views we're going to get from multiplying each of these together. So start with the first 5 lots of 15,000 is going to give me 75,000. So I can put that this, what we're doing here is the frequency times the midpoint. So then we want 9 times 45,000, which is 405,000. Then we've got 12 times 75,000, which is 900,000. And this last one, 4 times 105,000, which gives us 420,000. So the total number of views is all of these added together. So as I've already got this in my calculator, I'll start from the bottom and work upwards. So 420,000 plus 900,000 plus 405,000 plus 75,000 gives us 1,800,000. Okay, so the mean, let's move this up. So mean for company A is going to be 1,800,000 divided by 30, because we had 30 posts there. And that gives us 60,000. Which company receives a higher average number of views, A or B? Well, 60,000 is more than 53,200. So company A has most views. Okay. Some of the posts were about clothing and the rest were about shoes. The table shows the number of each. Okay, so we can see for company A, 21 of the posts were about clothing and 9 are about shoes. And for company B, 13 are about clothing and 10 are about shoes. One of the posts is chosen at random. Work out the probability that it is about clothing. Right, well, let's start off. This is a probability, so we're going to do it as a fraction. Let's start off with the bottom, the denominator. How many posts are there in total? Well, we've got 21 plus 9 plus 13 plus 10. So 53 posts in total. So that's at the bottom. That's all of them added up together. Now we're just interested in the probability that it's about clothing. Well, for clothing, it's going to be these. So that is a total of 21 plus 13. So the probability is going to be 34 out of 53. Okay. And we can write that down here. Okay, now for part C. Work out the probability that it is from company A and is about shoes. Right, well, we've still got the same denominator. There's still 53 posts in total. But we need it to be from company A and about shoes. So company A, all of these, shoes, all of these. So it's this one where they cross. So it's going to be 9 out of 53. Okay. Let's do that there, so we've got the answer line as well. In a year, Alex wrote 1,460 posts promoting companies. She was paid £75 for each post that had at least 65,000 views. In total, she was paid £36,000. What percentage of her posts had at least 65,000 views? Right, well, we can work out how many of the posts she got paid for. Because if this was her total, and this is how much she was paid for each one, we can do 36,000 divided by 75. Okay. Is that there? Yeah. So we can use our calculator for this one. Okay. So that means she was paid for 480 posts. Okay, so those must have received at least 65,000 views. Now, if we want to know what percentage that is, well then it's going to be our 480 out of a total of 1,460 posts. And to make it percentage, we're going to multiply it by 100. So 480 divided by 1,460, multiplied by 100. And we've got, well, let's round this to one decimal place. With this, you could round it to the nearest whole number, or you could do one decimal place, two decimal places. I'm going to go with one decimal place. So 32.8. 7 is more than 5, so that's going to round up to 32.9%. In fact, we can put that down here. But as I say, you could also put 33%, 32.88, any of them. As long as you've rounded them correctly, it'll be fine. Tinned food. A company makes tinned food. 9A. A tin is filled with peas and water. Here's our tin. We've got the weight is 300 grams there. The contents of the tin have a total mass of 300 grams, which it says. The mass of peas to the mass of water is 3 to 2. So in other words, the peas weigh more than the water do, because 3 is bigger than 2. 240 of these tins are packed into a box. Work out the total mass of peas in the box. Right, well, what I'm going to do first of all is work out how much of this 300 grams relates to peas. And I'm going to draw a little ratio table. So in my table, I'm going to have peas, I'm going to have water, and I'm going to have a total. Okay, so a ratio of 3 peas to 2 water. Now, if that's all we had, then 3 plus 2, our total would be 5. But what we're saying is actually the total is 300 grams. So we've got to work out how we're getting from this line to this line, or this row to this row, by multiplication. So we're going to do the inverse operation. So we're going to say 300 divided by 5, which gives us 60. Okay, so what this is saying is to get from this row up to the new one, we're going to multiply everything by 60, or 60 grams I've put here. So that's going to multiply by 60. That's going to multiply by 60. So 60 times 3, get 180. And we don't have to do the water, but we might as well get 120 grams of water. Right, so we want the total mass of peas. Well, if we know that in one tin of peas we've got 180 grams and we've got 240 of the tins, we're going to want 240 times 180. Which gives us 43,200 grams. But they do say give your answer in kilograms. Well, I know there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram, so we need to divide this by 1,000. If you think there's going to be fewer kilograms than grams, we've got to divide it to make the number smaller. And we get 43.2 kilograms. Okay, 9B. Can we fit it all in? Just about. No, I'll move it up afterwards. A tin for carrots is a cylinder with radius 2.8 centimetres and height 9 centimetres. Right, well, we've got that written on the diagram, so I can move it up now. When filled, 1/6 of the volume of the tin of carrots is water. The company uses 425 litres of water each day in tins of carrots. And we're told 1 litre equals 1,000 centimetres cubed. How many tins of carrots does the company make each day? Right, so we're interested in 1/6 of the volume of the carrots is water. So if we think, let's draw a line here. Okay, and this is our water. And this is 1/6 of the total. So if we do 1/6 of 9, okay, in fact, because it's a simple calculator, if I do 1 divided by 6 times 9, I'm going to get a bit of rounding. I'm going to have to round this to 1.5, which is fine. But if I put the whole number first, 9 times 1/6, it makes it easier. So I wrote it that way, but actually it's going to be easier with a simple calculator to do the whole number first. And we get 1.5. So that is telling us that this height, here to here, is 1.5. And that's centimetres. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to work out how much water is actually in here. So they've told us it in height. We want to work out what it is in litres. And then we can use that to work out, well, how many tins do they fill a day. Okay, so we want to work out the volume first of all. And if we want the volume of a cylinder, the way we do that is we work out the area of the circle, so this bit on top, and then multiply it by the height. Now we don't need to do it for the full cylinder because we're only interested in the bit with water in. Well, let's work out our area of the circle first of all. Well, for the area of the circle we need to use the formula pi r squared, where pi is 3.14 and it's multiplied by r squared. Well, r is the radius, which is 2.8, and squared means it's multiplied by itself. So we want 3.14 times 2.8 times 2.8, which gives us 24.6176. Okay, so we can write that here, 6176, and then we need to multiply it by the height. But remember, we're only interested in this height here. So that's 1.5, which gives us 36.9264, and that is centimetres cubed, because that's now in that's the volume, isn't it? So centimetres cubed, yeah. Right, now, so that's for one of them. The company uses 425 litres of water, and we're told that 1 litre is 1,000 centimetres cubed. So it's going to be a bit confusing if I've got some measurements in centimetres cubed and some in litres. So I'm going to turn my litres into centimetres cubed, so then it's easier to work with. So what we want to do is 425 times 1,000. You can use your calculator, but it's going to be 425,000 centimetres cubed. And what we're trying to work out, how many tins of carrots, we want to know how many of these 36.9264s fit into 425,000. So we're going to do 425,000 divided by 36.9264. So I've still got that in my calculator, so I'm going to put that in my memory. You don't have to, you can type it in yourself, but that's going to be a bit quicker for me. 425,000 divided by memory recall equals 11,509.38, and that's tins. Well, I can't have 0.38 of a tin, so if we want full tins, it's going to be 11,509 full tins. Okay, when I say full tins, it's not full because it's only 1/6 of water, but I don't understand. Maybe I'll say complete tins. Okay. Yeah. So if you left your answer like this, you'd probably lose a mark because you can't get 0.38 of a tin. This is what we need. Question 10. University student. Marco is about to start university. The table shows his total expected income for the year. So his student loan, he's going to get £8,700, and from his part-time job, he's going to get £4,800. Marco budgets for the following expenses each month for 12 months. So let's have a look. He's going to spend £589 on accommodation, £186 on living expenses, £65 on entertainment, and £87.50 on travel. That's per month. Marco will save any income that he does not spend. How much does he expect to save in the year? Okay, so basically what we're looking at is how much money does he get and how much money does he spend, and find the difference. Okay, so the total income he's going to be getting is going to be the 8,700 plus 4,800, which gives us 13,500, and that's his total income. Now we want to look at his total expenses. Remember, this is just for 12 months, so what we can do is we can add them all up and then multiply them by 12, or we can add each one by 12, multiply each one by 12 and then add them up. I'm going to add them up first because then it's less work. With these calculations, there's always going to be multiple ways of doing them. Look for the way that's most easy for you to understand, and the simplest one to do. Sometimes the one with the least amount of work isn't necessarily the easiest one to understand. So make sure you're comfortable with the method you're using. So 589 plus 186 plus 65 plus £87.50 gives a total of £927.50. That's per month. So we need to multiply that by 12, which gives us £11,130, and that's total expenses. So the amount he saves is going to be 13,500 minus 11,130. And I'm going to use my memory. Make sure you clear anything from the memory before. So 13,500 minus that gives us £2,370. 10b. On Marco's 14th birthday, his parents put £2,000 in a bank account for him. The account pays compound interest at a rate of 1.5% per annum. Marco can access the account on his 21st birthday. How much will be in the account on his 21st birthday? Right, let's start off by saying how many years is it? Well, if we're going from 14 up to 21, let's think backwards. 21 minus 14. You can probably do this without the calculator. That's going to give us 7 years. Now, what we need to do is we need to work out how much this is increasing by each year. Now, you could work out 1.5% of 2,000 and then add it on. But then for the second year, you'd have to work out 1.5% of that new amount and then add it on. And that's going to take a very long time. So what you need to do is you can either use the compound interest formula, but I think it's much easier to just sort of think it through and say, well, we've got 1.5%. So let's write that as a decimal. Okay, so 1.5% is the same as 1.5 divided by 100. Okay. So that's going to be 0.015. Okay, and then because we want to have the original amount as well, we don't want just the interest bit, we want to add 1 onto it, because the 1 represents 100%. Okay, so if we add 1 onto this, we get 1.015. Or a slightly different way of doing it, if we add the 100% to this, we can say, well, every year we want 101.5%. Okay. So again, if we're going to turn that into a decimal, 101.5% is going to be 101.5 divided by 100. Which gives us still the same answer there. So this is an alternative way of getting there. But essentially what we need is this 1.015. Okay, because that's what we're going to multiply by the original amount. So it's got £2,000 and we're going to multiply it by that. So after 1 year, if I did this, 2,000 times 1.015, that's how much it's worth after 1 year. Now we want it after 7 years. So we need that to the power 7. Or in other words, what we're saying is we want 2,000 times 1.015 for 1 year, times 0.015 for 2 years, for 3 years, for 4 years, for 5 years, for 6 years, and for 7 years. Okay, so it might feel a bit tedious typing it all in, and if you've got a scientific calculator, you don't need to, but I think this is a good way to kind of do a reasonableness check on here as well. So 1.015, so that's after 1 year. In fact, no, we don't want to do that. 2,000 times 1.015 after 1 year, and then 1.015, that's after 2 years, then after 3 years, after 4 years, after 5 years, after 6 years, and after 7 years. So we've got 2,219.6896, but we're dealing with money, so we want 2 decimal places, but this is a 9, so we're going to round this up, so it's going to be 2,219.69. If you wanted to, you could clear out your memory on your calculator, put the 1.015 in there, and then just do 2,000 times, and then you would just do memory recall, and do that 7 times, and you would get the same answer. Question 11. Jewellery. Mo makes and sells jewellery. He makes pendants in the shape of hexagons. The hexagons are made of glass and have wire around the perimeter. Here is a formula for the perimeter, P, of the hexagon. So we're told that P equals 6 times, and then we've got the square root of all of this. We've got B divided by 4, all squared, plus W divided by 2, all squared. And we're told B is the length of the pendant, W is the width of the pendant. Mo makes pendants with length 6.4 centimetres and width 5.5 centimetres. He buys the wire in reels with 4 metres of wire on each reel. How many pendants can Mo make using 1 reel of wire? You must show your working. Right, so this sounds very complicated. What we've got to do is to think we don't need to understand all of this. We just need to use it. Now, if this was a simple number, if we knew that the perimeter was, 20 centimetres, well, what we'd do is we'd say, well, how many 20 centimetres are going to fit into 4 metres? So the first thing we'd say is, well, 4 metres, well, if we turn it into centimetres, 4 times 100, so 400 centimetres. So if we knew this was equal to 20, we'd say 400 divided by 20. So all we need to do instead is to work out what this value is. Now, they've given us the numbers. Yeah. So we've just got to copy it as it is. We've got 6 times. We've got our square root sign. Now, instead of the letters, I'm going to start to put my numbers in. So B is the length of the pendant, which is this 6.4. So it's going to be 6.4 divided by 4, and then that's all squared. And that's added to W, the width, so that's the 5.5. So 5.5 divided by 2, then that's all squared, and that's all inside the square root. Okay, so let's do just one bit at a time. So 6, we're leaving the 6 times because we have to work all of this out before we can multiply it by the 6. So we've still got the square root. Let's do our brackets first. So 6.4 divided by 4 is 1.6. And we've done that bit, so we can get rid of the brackets now, but it's 1.6 squared. And then we want the next set of brackets, which is 5.5 divided by 2, so 2.75 squared. Okay, so we're just doing one bit at a time. So we've still got the 6 times because we haven't worked out everything in the square root yet. Well, we want 1.6 squared. So 1.6 times 1.6, which is 2.56. And we're going to add that to 2.75 squared, or 2.75 times 2.75, which is 7.5625. Okay, so we still can't do any square roots or multiplication because we haven't done everything that's in here. So we've still got the 6, still got the times, and we've still got the square root sign. Now we can add these two together. So the 7.5625, add that to the 2.56, and we get 10.1225. Right, now the next thing, before we do the multiplication, we need to do the square root. Now, if you're trying to think how this fits into BIDMAS or order of operations, the square root is seen as part of indices or order of or power of. Okay, so we've got a button on our simple calculator, square root button, so I can just press that. So that means we want 6 times 3.18 blah blah blah, but instead of writing it all down, I'm just going to keep all the values in my calculator and then multiply it by 6, which gives me 19.089525, and I'm going to round that. They've given their values to 1 decimal place, so I'm going to round it to 1 decimal place. Be 0, but 8's more than 5, so I'm going to round that to 19.1 centimetre. Okay. Actually, my guess of 20 centimetres was a complete guess nothing to do with anything isn't too far off, but that wasn't me being clever, that was just luck. Okay, so the perimeter of one of those pendants is 19.1 centimetres. So we want to know how many of those we can get from a reel of 400 centimetres. So we want 400 divided by 19.1. Okay, so 400 divided by 19.1. And we get 20.9. But we can't have 0.9 of a pendant. So we can say, so 20 pendants. Yeah, nothing to do with rounding up. We can't just say, oh, it's closer to 21. We haven't got enough for 21, so we can only make 20 complete pendants. (11b). Mo makes some pendants. The glass in each pendant is red, blue, or yellow. 2/11 of the pendants are red. Blue pendants and yellow pendants are in the ratio 2:1. What fraction of the pendants are blue? Right, so if 2/11 are red, well, if we do 11 minus 2 is 9. So that must be 9/11 are either blue or yellow. Now we've got a ratio here, so let's draw a little ratio table. And we've got blue, we've got yellow, and we'll have a total. Okay. So we know the ratio is 2:1. So if that's all we had, there would be 3 in total. But actually we've got 9/11 that we need to share out. So our total's 9. So how are we getting from here to here? So we start with the 9 and we're doing 9 divided by 3, which is 3. Or you might be able to see, well, I need to multiply 3 by 3 to get up to here. So everything in this row needs to be multiplied by 3. Excuse me. So 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. So what fraction of the pendants are blue? Well, we've got 6 out of the original 11. So we would have 6/11 are blue and 3/11 are yellow, and the other 2/11 we already know are red. Question 12, football match. Steph supports Leicester City Football Club. She and 3 friends are going to watch the team play at West Ham United. Now, if you don't know anything about football or don't care about football, it doesn't matter, okay? Don't let that throw you or distract you. The table shows information about the 3 parts of their journey. They're going to drive 108 miles at an average speed of 48 miles per hour. Then take a train, which is a maximum of 34 minutes. And then walk to the stadium, which takes a maximum of 25 minutes. What is the latest time they can leave to be sure of getting to the stadium by 2:30 p.m? You must show you're working. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out the total time taken, and then we're going to take it off of this time. So we'll work backwards. Right, so if we're driving 108 miles, we can do 48 miles per hour. So we want to know how many 48s fit into 108. Or in other words, 108 divided by 48. And that's 2.25 hours. Okay, that's not 2 hours and 25 minutes. It's 2.25 hours. Okay, so what we can do with that is, if you want to turn that into minutes, you can say, well, I know that there's 60 minutes in an hour. So 2.25 times 60 is 135 minutes. Or you could say it's 2 full hours, so 2 times 60, which is 120, and a quarter of an hour, which we know is 15 minutes. So 120 plus 15 still gives us 135 minutes. Okay, so the drive is taking 135 minutes. The train is 34 minutes and the walk is 25 minutes. So if we add these three together, 135 plus 34 plus 25, we get 194 minutes. Okay. Well, let's work that out in hours and minutes. Right, well, I know there's 60 minutes in an hour, so let's see how many times I can take 60 off it. So that would be 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and 14 minutes left. So this is 3 hours, 14 minutes. Okay, so if we want to get to the staging by 2:30, we want to take off 3 hours and 14 minutes. Well, 3 is more than 2, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a 24-hour clock. So I'm going to add 12 hours onto it, because this is in the afternoon. So if I add 12 hours, this is going to give me 14:30. Okay, so say the reason for doing that, writing the time as 14:30, is so that when I take off 3 hours and 14 minutes, I'm not going to have any sort of negative numbers or anything funny there. So let's do the 30 minus the 14, which gives us 16 minutes. And 14 minus the 3 gives us 11. Now, because they gave PM in the first one, I need to put AM or PM. Well, now it's be less than 12, so I can put that AM back in. Okay, so the last part of this paper, 12B. Steph works out the cost of her trip, including the return journey. She will use the car to drive 108 miles each way. Actually, sorry, I said the last part. There's part B and part C to this. Okay. She'll use her car to drive 100 miles each way, okay? So she's got to double that up if she wants a total. She and her 3 friends will share the cost of fuel equally. Her car travels 12.5 miles per litre of fuel. Fuel costs 128.8p per litre. Steph will also pay £3 for a return train ticket, £30 for a match ticket, and £8 for food. Work out the total amount Steph will pay for her trip. Right, so we're interested in how much Steph pays. So it's going to be all of this. But she's only going to be paying part of the fuel because she's sharing it with 3 other friends. Okay, so let's do the easy bit. Let's add up these costs first. So £3 plus £30 plus £8. It's going to be £41 there. Okay. Now we're going to look at this. So if she's using her car to drive 108 miles each way, we said we're going to need to double that. To get the journey there and the journey back. Okay. If it's she and her 3 friends, that's going to be 4 people in total that we need to share it amongst. Her car travels 12.5 miles per litre of fuel. So if we need to do 216 miles, we need to know how many litres she's going to need. So we're going to do 216 divided by 12.5. So that's going to be 17.28 litres. Okay. And it costs 128.8p per litre. So we want 128.8 times 17.28. Now, with a lot of questions so far, we've had, if we're working out how much we need of something, we've rounded it. We've said, well, you can only buy a fixed number of pendants or a set number of something. With petrol, it's fine to be 0.28 of a litre. You don't have to buy complete whole litres. So this is fine to keep it as 17.28. So if we multiply that by 128.8, we get 2225 0.664, and that's all p, that's all pence. So if we want to turn it into pounds, we're going to divide that by 100. So 22.25, the next number is more than 5, so we're going to make it 0.26. Okay, so that's for the fuel. Now remember there's 4 friends, so we want to divide that by 4. So the 22.26 divided by 4. 5.5, well, we've got 5 here, so we're going to round that up to 5.7. So £5.57. So what we need to do is add on the £41 that we've worked out already. So we've got £5.57 plus 41, and we get a total of £46.57. Now, depending on how you work it out with rounding and things, you might get 1p more or less than that. That's fine. They allow for that in the answers. Okay, so now we're on to this really is the last section. Steph looks at all the match results Leicester City have had at West Ham United. And Leicester's won 12 times, West Ham won 32 times, and they drew 15 times. Steph says, based on these results, the probability of a Leicester win is more than 20%. Is she correct? You must show your working. Okay, well, let's work out what the probability of a Leicester win is. Well, it's going to be 12 out of, well, the total number of times they played. So we're going to need to add these all together. So 12 plus 32 plus 15 gives us 59. So it's 12 out of 59. But we want it as a percentage. So we're going to do 12 divided by 59 times 100, which is 20 point, we can do it to one decimal place, 20.3%, which is not a lot, but that is more than 20%. So is she correct? Yes, she is correct. And that's the end of the paper. So thanks for watching. Please give a thumbs up, like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel, make sure your notifications are on to find out when I add new videos, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.